everyone. So for today's recipe, I've got these lovely ingredients here. We've got some leeks, a potato, some onions and some stock and some butter. Can anyone guess what we're going to make today? Well, full marks if you guessed. It's leek and potato soup. Really simple, really easy, really nutritious. And the beauty of this recipe is it's a vegetarian recipe. And you can even make it vegan by take out the butter and use olive oil instead. So it suits everybody. You can make it for the whole family. So the first thing I need to do is to prepare the vegetables. And I'm going to do the leeks first to show you how we prepare a leek. Now, the thing about leeks is, and I'm just going to trim them. So we need to take the root off and also we'll take off this outer layer of leaves, because they're a bit shriveled up, and I might just trim the top a little bit, although these are pretty well trimmed anyway. Now the thing about leeks is, and I'm just going to cut it down the middle like this, so we've got it in two halves, and I want to show you inside the leek there are lots of layers. Can you see all those layers? And in between all those layers there's plenty of opportunity for dirt to get in. So it's really important that we wash these properly. So I'm going to show you how to prepare the leek and how to wash it properly, ready for our soup. So the first thing we need to do is actually slice it. I'm trying to do it quick here. I'm going to do two at once. We need quite thin slices. So I'm just going to line the two up here and I'm going to slice them just like about maybe 1/4 centimetre thick slices, as you can see. So just slicing them so that they are all nice and finely sliced, because when we've made this soup we're going to blend it so that it's really smooth, and obviously the smaller the pieces that go in there the easier that will be. So here we go, I nearly got to the end of this one. So here we go. I'm even going to put these green bits in because they're all very nutritious, and there's, see some dirt in there. So there we go, one sliced leek. Now I'm just going to slice the other two and then I'll show you what we do with those. Okay, so we've chopped all those leeks, 3 leeks in there, and now we need to wash them. So I've got a bowl of water here. There we go. And I'm just going to tip these in so they can have a good old swish around in the water, so we can get rid of all that dirt. And I'm going to just leave them in there for a minute while I prepare the onions. So it's a medium onion for this recipe, but I have only got small ones, so I'm going to use 2. And the way we prepare them is to cut them in half like this, peel this outer skin, so we don't want all that. There we go, take the outer layer off. Okay, let's put that away. Good to clean as you go. And then basically I'll just show you with this one and then I'll prepare the others and come back to you. So there we go, half an onion, leave the root on, slice down sort of wedges like this, not going right to the end. And then when you slice like this you get nice small pieces. So that's the onion all chopped. As you can see, there's a lot of chopping in this recipe. And what I will say is really good if you're doing lots of chopping, make sure you've got good sharp knives, because a sharp knife is much safer than a blunt one, because when it's working it will cut through. If it's blunt and it slips, it's more likely to not cut what you're cutting and cut you instead. So really good tip there, make sure you've got a good sharp knife. So I've done the onion. Next thing, I'm going to do the potato. I've got my potato peeler. I'm going to peel the potato. So So there's our peeled potato. What I need to do now is slice this up into small pieces. So I'm going to slice it into about 1 centimetre slices, and then you can see I'll chop it into little cubes. There we go. And this makes it cook quicker, obviously, for smaller pieces. There we go. So once I've done this, what I'm going to do is rinse the potatoes to get all the excess starch out of them, and then we can start to cook our soup. So now it's time to cook our soup. So I've got my stock pot here, and I am going to melt the butter, or if you're going to use oil, now's the time to put that in. Just melt the butter on a low heat. We don't want anything burning. Okay, and once this butter is melted, then I'll be adding all the ingredients, and we'll just saute those gently till they're soft, and then we can add the stock and do the main bit of the cooking, which is just to boil it up. Really simple. So I've melted the butter. I'm going to put in the onions. In they go. You can hear them sizzling away. Next I'm going to add the potatoes. They go in. Just stir them around to coat them with the fat, so they'll cook nicely. And then I'm going to add the leeks that I've strained from washing all that dirt off them. There we go. So all I need to do now is just stir them to coat everything in the oil, and then I'm going to put the lid on and leave it for 2 or 3 minutes so everything can soften and cook down nicely. Okay, so that's 3 minutes simmering away, and as you can see, it's reduced down quite a lot, and you can see some liquid in the bottom that's come out of the vegetables. So that's the time now for us to add the stock. So over here in my jug, I have about 1 litre of vegetable stock, which I've made using 2 vegetable stock cubes. And I'm just going to pour this in. In it goes. Give it a stir. Now at this point, this is when we want to increase the heat and bring it to the boil. So I put it on a boiling plate now, and we're just going to bring it to the boil on here. Just make sure it doesn't catch. It's all right now because there's a lot of liquid in there. So it just, if I put the lid on, obviously that will keep the heat in and that will get it going a bit quicker. And when it's brought to the boil, that's when you put the heat back down, and it needs then to simmer for 15 minutes. So turn the heat down, or if you've got an Arga like me, we can put it in the simmering oven and leave it in there for 15 minutes.
Okay.
So while we're waiting for the soup to boil up and get to the right consistency, just wanted to show you the equipment that we're going to need to finish it off, because obviously at the moment it's just chopped up bits of vegetables. So to make it a nice smooth soup, we need to blender it somehow. So you're going to need either one of these, a blender. This is the blender attachment on my food processor, or if you've got one of these are really good, really easy to use, and just do it straight into the pan. Very quick and easy, and quite cheap to buy. Very useful if you want to make lots of soups or smoothies or anything like that. Really good investment that is. So those are the sort of things we're going to be using. I'll probably use the blender because I've made quite a lot. But if you haven't got a blender and you've got one of these, or you want to invest in something, maybe go for one of these because they are a bit cheaper. And we'll do that when it's all been boiling away and simmering for 15 minutes. So that's the soup all simmered up for 15 minutes. So it's really looking more like soup now, if you can see that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to spoon it into this blender. Be very careful because it is quite hot. In fact, it's a good idea to leave it just a couple of minutes after it's come off the stove, because you want it to cool down. You don't want it too hot going into the blender. So I'm just going to fill it up. Now the other thing you might have noticed is that we haven't put any seasoning, no salt or pepper in this yet. And that's deliberate, because when you're doing soup, until you've got all the ingredients all blended up, it's a good idea not to put the seasoning in, because it doesn't really distribute well throughout the soup until it's all smooth. So what we'll do is we'll blender it first, and then we'll taste it and check the seasoning. Okay, so we don't want to overfill it, because we've got hot liquid in here and we must be really careful. So put the lid on, make sure it's on really tight, and then I'm going to start the blender going. So you won't be able to hear me then, because it makes a lot of noise. So let's give this a go. There we go, and that's all it takes. All that soup now is nicely blended. So that's the soup, nice and smooth. What I'm going to do now is put it back into the saucepan. So carefully, pouring it back in. And I can see it's all nice and smooth, like soup should be. Well, not all soup should be smooth. Some needs a bit lumpy. So I'm just going to taste it now. That's not bad. I think it needs a little bit of salt. I'll put some salt in. And a bit of pepper. Not a bit of pepper. A bit of stir. And then we'll taste it again. And hopefully that will be it. Now there's quite a lot of soup here, so if you've got a big family, they can all have some. If it's too much for you to eat in one go, it freezes really well, so put it into containers, put 1 or 2 portions in a container, and then you've always got some soup. If you've got nothing else to eat in the fridge, you can always get a pot of soup out of the freezer and eat that. Lovely natural ingredients and all very wholesome. So let's just taste it again. Very good. Okay, so that will be for our lunch. So hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope you'll all have a go. So bye for now.